Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of TJ Plays Some AI Stuff. In this edition, I want to talk about DESIGN.md files. It seems like a lot of people have been discussing DESIGN.md files as though they're something new. The question that I get asked the most is, what do I think of them, and where do they belong within a context-based design system workflow? And I think they have their place. I think they're awesome, just like any other markdown file in the naming conventions of having AI use context within their decision making is a great idea. I think there's a lot of overhype around it right now, just because of how Google Stitch's platform came out and kind of announced how it uses design.md files, but it's not really any kind of new technology. It's just it's using same old naming conventions. I think it sounds like people are excited because Google gave them permission to do something they've been able to do all along, because it's really just the same way that CLAUDE.md files are written in red, in the same way like cursor rules are written in red by cursor. It's just Stitch automatically reads by convention the design.md file. So just to show that design.md files are pretty cool, and you can use them in your projects, I have this fun little experiment set up here where I have a Figma project open. I have this frame that's without design.md, and then I have this frame that's with design.md. And then down here I have two warp instances open. I have one where I'm inside of a without DESIGN.md directory, and then I'm on another directory for this Claude Code instance where I am in one that actually has a design.md file, and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the files that we're in. So this is the demo with design.md file, which has a claude.md file because I'm working with Claude, and this one is no design.md file. So if we open up the claude.md file, then I'm asking it explicitly to reference the design.md file, similar to the way Stitch does by default. And then it has some general information about some tooling for the Figma console MCP. And then it has some basic rules. Aren't really super explicit design patterns, but it does give it some kind of general direction of where it wants it to go. And then some cleanup instructions, and then some verification instructions. But the design.md file is all the explicit design rules about how we want these interfaces to be designed. So it goes through backgrounds and text and accent colors and borders. So it's very explicit about the instructions of how the AI should design these interfaces. And then so without DESIGN.md, it's pretty much the same thing as it was before, except there is no explicit instructions for it to call a design.md file because it does not exist. So over here, I am connected to the MCP. So we'll go into warp, and then I have these loaded up and ready to go. So these basic instructions, the only difference right here is this one asks for with DESIGN.md, and this one says without DESIGN.md, but it's basic instructions to create a dashboard screen for an analytics product called Pulse. Inside the frame that's with DESIGN.md, and then inside the frame without DESIGN.md on the current page, include a left sidebar with 5 items, a row of 4 metric cards at the top, showing KPIs, and a line chart. So it's really just like a basic dashboard type interface. So we're not looking for anything groundbreaking here. We just want to see it put this thing together. So I'm going to hit enter in both of these prompts, and then we're going to let it rip. This is probably going to end up doing a lot of AI churn. So I'll leave this run live so that way you can actually see all of the different tools and stuff get called here. Depending on how long it takes, I may end up speeding up this part just so that way it doesn't take too long. But I'll just be quiet and I'll sip my coffee, and then I'll watch the show along with you. Okay, so it looks like they're both done now. There was one little instruction that I had to send to both of them that just aesthetically, it looks like the sidebar navigation didn't extend all the way down. So I had to give it some explicit instructions to tell it to do that. But let's take a closer look. So this is what we have on the without design.md file, which looks pretty good. I mean, this is a pretty standard dashboard layout. No problems here. Nice navigation, got some icons in there. And then over here is the with design.md. I suppose this graph could have been extended a little bit further, but I think that's okay for where it's at. And this is a nice little touch on the navigation with the accent color right there on the left border. And this one looks pretty good too, so I'm not going to complain. I think the important part is that the design.md file had all of the explicit instructions about using all these specific colors that were in there. Let's go back to that file and take a look at what was in it. So this says background canvas is a certain color, surface, surface raised, so the hover states, which you can't see right here. The primary text, this is for high contrast. This is meant to be in dark mode. And let's see, there's subtle borders for these gray borders that it got in there. The typography rules, so it's using inter. Let me see if I can get this UI back. So we've got inter in there. So it is abiding by these rules. So I think is great. And I think for what it's worth, both of them probably are. Let me see which typeface this is. Yeah, this is also using inter. It's almost like they use that by default these days. But anyway, this is just to show you that design.md files can be recognizable, and it's just context for the AI to understand when it's putting together its thing, and it does have its place and it does belong in context-based design system workflows, and it basically serves as additional context for your AI, which is always a good thing. So anyway, this is a fun little exercise. I thought it was fun to see what the Figma console MCP can come up with when it's just generating from raw instructions without any variables or components or anything to work with. And it is cool how it just it names all of these layers, all of these specific things, which is a nice little touch. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, please go out, use your design.md files. You don't have to name them design.md files in a lot of your projects. You can call them design-tokens or design-typography or design-layout, whatever you want to call them. But it's all good instructions when you want to produce higher fidelity layouts and higher fidelity outputs and reduce risk when working with AI. So anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.